Hello sewing friends and welcome back. I'm the Cat Sews and this is a wrap up of my year of sewing in 2020. So I wanted to just run through all of the clothing that I've made in 2020, talk about some of the good points and the bad points, patterns that I will revisit. This video will also be accompanied by a separate video that I'm uploading for my plans for 2021, which I have some pretty big announcements for, so I'm very excited about that. 2020 has been an insane year. It's been crazy, and I know that the effects of it are not over yet for a lot of people. But sewing wise, it's been a pretty good year for me. I made 9 separate garments this year, which I'm pretty chuffed with. That is more than I've ever made before. And I've added some pretty good pieces to my wardrobe this year. So just to jump right in, the very first garment that I made this year was a pair of pants. Now this was actually made for my 2019 New Year's Eve party. Moving into 2020, we did a 20s jazz theme, which I'm pretty sure everyone did. We had so much fun. We had cocktails, we had champagne, we played jazz music all night, everyone got dressed up, so it was an absolute blast. I did a very Marlene Dietrich inspired look. I had my high-waisted pants, my white button-down shirt, I had my suspenders, the whole thing. If I had had more time, I might have also made a vest, but no. In true form, I did not give myself enough time to make these pants, so that was all I got out of this one. The pants I made was actually a 1940s pattern by Simplicity, so I believe this one was re-released in its current format, but was an original pattern that was released in the 40s. The current number of it is the Simplicity 8447, and this one has certainly made the rounds. I've seen a lot of people make this. In fact, Rachel Maksy actually used this pattern in one of their recent sewing videos, which I will link down below if you would like to check it out. It's very cute, it's very Rosie the Riveter, and I think it's quite versatile as well, because you receive a couple of shirt options and then options for overalls and separate pants as well, with a side closure. So I do think this pattern is really versatile. You get a lot in here. Initially I didn't actually realise that you got shirt patterns as well, but they are there. And I quite enjoyed working with this pattern. This pattern overall made pants much less intimidating than I thought they were going to be. They're actually quite simple to construct. It's just, well, at least these were, because they have a side closure, not a traditional fly. I think the main issues come with fitting. Fitting wise, I did actually have to add about an inch on each side to this pattern to get it over my hips, and I possibly should have done a full seat adjustment as well. Not that I have any idea how to do that, and it's certainly something I might look into in the future, simply because with these pants I experience a phenomena that I've heard called the hungry butt syndrome, which is basically I get fabric caught every time I stand up. So they're not outside pants, basically. These are exclusively for me to wear at home. They are extremely comfortable. The other issue I faced when I made these pants was I made them out of a tencel twill, which as it turns out is not the same as like a suiting twill. They're two very different fabrics. Tencel twill is very light, it's very drapey, and it does wrinkle quite easily actually. So, you know, work carefully with it. But because I made the pants out of the tencel twill, they're too lightweight for the look that I was going for. They worked very well on New Year's Eve when everyone was just like, oh my god, you made pants, instead of, oh my god, you made those pants with the wrong material. Though if your friends are going to criticize the things that you sew and they are not sewers, rethink those friends. But I do really like this pattern. I think it's very cute. I will revisit it in the future. Unfortunately, the pants that I did make out of it this time round don't quite work the way I want them to. Maybe a heavier fabric as well would have stopped the hungry butt from occurring, but who knows. Overall, I still get a lot of wear out of them. They're just not my go-tos for nice clothing outdoors. I do have my eyes on some very nice trouser patterns for next year's office sewing when I eventually go back to the office, because that might take a bit longer than I thought. Next up. Okay, next up, I took a fair break. There was a few months in between that and my next garment made in which I went on our first and only holiday of the year, because while we were overseas we were watching the COVID situation develop, and we were going, oh, it's fine, you know, because you see pandemics like this kind of, well, you see the fear of pandemic spread a lot. I remember the same happened with like Ebola. When I was in high school, everyone was freaking out about that, but it didn't really eventuate into anything. So I was a little bit too cavalier with COVID. I was like, no, it's fine, you know, we'll just be careful, it's all good. And then we got back to Australia, and about 2 days later, the whole country shut down and was like, no, you need to quarantine if you're coming in from overseas. We're going to start shutting the borders. And we were very, very lucky to get back when we did. So between holiday and the start of a pandemic and a whole adjustment period, there was a few months in which I did not sew anything, which is totally fine. And then I sewed a boat neck dress using the boat neck dress bodice pattern from Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses. I matched it up with a circle skirt pattern from Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book. If you like 50s style clothing, and you can get your hands on one of these books, they are a bit expensive. If you can, I highly recommend them. Alternatively, something I've learned recently is to check out books at your local library. Your local library possibly has a sewing section, and you can quite often get pattern books in there, entire pattern books with the patterns enclosed. You can go home, trace out the patterns you need, return the books, you know, photocopy pages, so they're there for your use. It's definitely something, if buying entire books like this isn't something that's very accessible to you, but you still are interested in these particular books, I highly recommend you go check out your local library. But if you can get your hands on these, well, via library or purchasing them yourself, these are amazing sewing manuals. I love them so much. So I made a boat neck dress out of a polka dot cotton from Spotlight. It was a plain old quilting cotton, which I adore. I can't actually show you the full view of this dress, simply because I'm currently resizing it. An interesting mix of additional COVID plush and also muscle built up over the year. Basically, I've still been working out with weights, but I haven't been doing as much cardio. So my exercise levels overall have gone down, but I'm still working out 4 days a week. So I'm pretty sure I've built muscle, but I'm also a bit plushier than I was at the start of the year. That combined, I'm currently resizing my boat neck dress. I'm putting in a lace up back, so it's a bit more versatile for future weight changes. So I'm really happy with how that's going. I am hand sewing eyelets, which is a lengthy process for someone who is not used to hand sewing. I'm not very quick at it at all. So I'm currently, I think, about a quarter of the way done with that, and I will be sharing the finished dress on my Instagram when it's done. Following that, I made the ultimate gingham dress, well, not the ultimate gingham dress, my ultimate gingham dress in a lovely green gingham from Spotlight as well. It's a really beautiful lightweight fabric, and I made the surplice dress, I think it's called the surplice dress, again from Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book. This one just has a cross front and a big midriff panel, and then of course the full skirt. Well, I think I added the full skirt, but either way, I adore this dress. Again, I resized it, but this one I could just take out the side seams a little bit and then it fit quite well. to accommodate that additional COVID plush. So I am super duper happy with this dress. I think this is one of my favorite makes of 2020. I'm super duper pleased with it. And yeah, this is going to be a great summer dress, which is great because it's quite warm here in Melbourne at the moment. Following that, I took on one of the biggest sewing projects I have ever done. I made the Luzerne trench coat from Deer & Doe Patterns. This is part of their botany collection, which I only learnt by reading the pattern. I didn't know that they had collections, but of course they do. I've seen them announce new collections and it doesn't connect. Anyway, this is a trench coat-like coat that I made mid this year. I actually got to wear it during the colder months, so go me for actually sewing things when I need them. This has actually been on my to make pile for quite some time and it terrified me. I will say I did not do bound buttonholes. I skipped that step and I did ordinary buttonholes instead because bound buttonholes still terrify me, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure I like the way they look for the amount of effort that they take. So I will definitely be revisiting this in the future because once again I made this out of I thought I was making a good decision and I just wasn't. We were in the middle of lockdown. I couldn't go anywhere to buy fabric and I thought maybe I'll try a heavier weight tencel twill. And that'll work. No. So this is a very, again, lightweight drapey fabric that I've made this coat with. It does look awesome. It's very functional and it's still quite warm despite being a lightweight material. So I do really like it, but I will look to making a more structured version of this coat in the future. And then we reach the point in my sewing timeline where I discovered Stitch Witch patterns, and the very first making video of this channel was born sewing the Tudor blouse. I love this blouse. I haven't gotten as many opportunities to wear it as I thought. I think I need to make some nice like bottoms that go with it, maybe a nice black skirt or something simple, because I think I've made this blouse and it's super cute, but it's polka dotted and puffy sleeved. And now I have no idea what to wear it with. So I need some nice black jeans or a nice black denim skirt, maybe something like that. But I adore this blouse. It is super duper cute. I made this out of a very limited amount of polka dot cotton that I had. I think it's a cotton. It's a bit lighter weight than quilting cotton, and it was actually given to me by my future mother-in-law. And the sleeves are quite a bit shorter than the pattern calls for, simply because I really had to jig my way in order to use this tiny amount of cotton that I had. But I love how it came out. It is super cute. It is again one of my top makes of 2020. I'm very proud of it. And then I raided my stash. I had two mornings. Actually, this was a pretty good stash busting year for me. There's certainly more I can do because I have a lot of fabric under there. More than I have storage I'm getting to, but that's okay. I have future plans to make other things as well. But it was a pretty good stash busting year. That is not something you can say quickly. I made two skirts. These are two short pencil skirts that I actually made using the pencil skirt pattern from Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book. And I just added a waistband, length of my waist plus an additional, I think I added like 2 or 3 inches. That way I could have the additional seam allowance, and I also had a little bit of overlap to do a button and a buttonhole as the top closure, and then the skirt zip up the back. I am super happy with these. They are adorable. I get so much wear out of them, particularly the tartan skirt. I actually wore it for this recently gone New Year's Eve. We were very fortunate enough to have people over. Unfortunately, we are kind of seeing a few more COVID cases crop up, So it was back to everyone wearing masks indoors and being very conscious of hand sanitizer and touching people, but it was so, and hugging people, I should say, just to be clear then. But it was so lovely to have people over at our house. It was just really, really nice to see our friends again in person. So we were safe, we were practical. We bought like individual chip packets and individual like lolly packets and mini chocolate bars so that no one would be handling the same food. I made little loot bags that had like hand sanitizer and masks and little bottles of alcohol. I like hosting. Anyway, I wore my short tartan skirt for this event with a long sleeve black blouse, and I was so happy with just how it looked. I get a lot of wear out of these two skirts, and they busted two remnants with a very, very little fabric left over. Teeny tiny scraps, if that, basically. So I was super pleased with how these turned out. And I think I'm set for skirts now, but it's definitely a pattern that I will keep in mind. I did, as I mentioned, my hip to waist ratio is pretty steep, so I did end up grading out the pattern a bit in the hips so that I had some extra room and they fit perfectly. I'm so glad that I took the time to really go through and make proper toiles for these because they fit excellently. And I'm really pleased with them. And coming up to the final portion of the year, I made the highly popular, very coveted Sicily slip dress. This pattern was created by Sewing Patterns by Mason, and is one that I really recommend. I talked about it in my video. Again, I haven't had the time to hack this into a top, but I certainly will. That way I have like kind of a nice top to wear out of an evening, and I think that'll work quite well. As I mentioned in my video, this just wasn't the right fabric to make it with. I thought I was doing the right thing. I'd purchased satin, you know, that was what the pattern called for, but it was a really heavy polyester satin. And it's just not drapey enough. It's not, you really want something that basically has no weight to it. That way you can get a really lovely drape when you do this bias cut dress. So definitely a pattern that I want to look into again in the future and make a new version of. And finally, to finish off the year, I'm actually spending my holidays catching up on some hand sewing, so finishing some face masks. I'm hemming some curtains, very exciting. I am hand sewing the eyelets on my dress so that I can resize it. So I haven't been doing very much sewing recently. What I did end the year with, I'm very proud of. I was one of the pattern testers for the new Stitch Witch Patterns hemlock top, and I am super pleased with it. I made this using an ombre teal linen cotton blend from Fabric Deluxe, and it is just so super comfy. It is really nice. I think I've been missing a wrap top like this in my collection for quite some time, so I was super happy to add it in, and it looks awesome. I will have a video of my making process and my review coming out. I thought I was going to have that video done weeks ago, and then just the end of the year caught up with me. I had so much going on, and so now it's been massively pushed back. But that is okay. I will release it when I release it. I'm trying not to be too hard on myself with release dates. I do want to get videos out regularly, but I need to balance that with just my work life and my extracurriculars, and it can be a lot sometimes. So that's okay. We're learning. It's all good. And yeah, that was my year of sewing in 2020. Again, excluding all of the many face masks I made, which will forever be the symbol of 2020, I think. Face masks and toilet paper. It's been a wild year. I don't want to end this video on a down note, but I do think it's really important to touch base about this. The pandemic has been really hard to move through. It has been just a complete shake-up. I have been extremely privileged in my situation. I've been able to work from home. I've actually had quite a few good things happen this year. but I have struggled through it still, and I know a lot of people are suffering hard through job loss or income loss or grief, and I just want to say that we are going to get through this together as a team, working to keep the infection rate down, but it is hard. Particularly during the holiday period, things can get very, very difficult to deal with. So I just want to encourage you, if you are experiencing hardship or mental difficulty because of this time, please speak to a professional if you can. Speak to family or friends, touch base with the people around you and talk about how you're feeling. And if you truly feel like you can't talk to anybody, please know that you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation, happy to video chat, however I can help, because I know that this year has not been easy, but for a lot of people this year isn't quite over. 2020 may have passed, but the effects are going to linger for a while. My heart goes out to you if you're experiencing difficulty at this point in time, and I just wanted to touch base and let you know that I am always here to help however I can. So with that, I'm going to wrap this video up. I think I've had a terrific year when it comes to sewing. I've made a lot of things that I really love, and I'm just extremely proud of all the things that I've made. So there will be a follow-up video to this one. What are my 2021 sewing plans? And boy, do I have a big one. Very excited to share that with you guys. Please let me know what you have been making recently. What was your favorite make of 2020, or how else have you been keeping yourself occupied through what has been a very, very difficult year? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more. You can also touch base with me over on Instagram, where I post more of my makes. Thank you all for watching. Happy sewing.